What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel for another video. Today I'm going to show you two pieces of equipment that I found that make chain maintenance on your motorcycle just that much easier. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you why we have what looks like an IV running on the Z1000. While I was here, I decided to take the side panel off over there, and this side panel covers what would be sitting right here is the coolant reservoir tank. So when I popped this panel off, the coolant reservoir was sitting right here, and I couldn't tell like what the fluid level was in it, so I shone a flashlight up against it, and lo and behold, the coolant level was like at the very bottom. I mean, the low line would have been like right up here, and the high line's like right up here. The fluid level was like way down here. I decided to take the reservoir tank out, and I popped it open and looked at the fluid inside, and it was absolutely disgusting. What was inside looked like dark black purple. As far as I know, it's not supposed to look like that. So I took the coolant reservoir tank out, I dumped a little bit of fluid that was in it out, and now I've got it inside the house right now, soaking in hot water and degreasing solution, and I'm trying to clean the tank out as best as I can before it goes back on the bike. Now, what that also brought to my attention is it's probably time to do a coolant flush and service on this motorcycle. Unfortunately, and the reason I have this system hooked up right here is I'm getting ready to drain the gas tank. So my luck is that I get off work yesterday, I notice I'm low on gas, so what do? I fill up. I filled all the way up. This is a 4.75 gallon tank. I get home, there's at least 4.3 gallons in this tank right now. And unfortunately, to get to the actual radiator cap, you have to take the tank off, because on the opposite side of this, the coolant reservoir cap is actually like right under here. So unfortunately, the tank has to be lifted. But the reason that I'm draining the tank is because I don't need this tank to weigh probably close to 40 pounds while I'm trying to maneuver it and get it out of the way. So Operation IV is underway here. We got the gas coming out of the tank. Alright, so the first tool we're going to go over today, we've been over before, but I want to touch on it again briefly, because I feel like using these two tools in combination with each other makes doing your chain maintenance just that much faster. So this is the Motion Pro Chain Alignment Tool. So this thing is pretty cheap. I think it's like under 10 bucks or right around 10 bucks. And what this does is it bolts right there to your sprocket, and there's just a little lip on the other side. And what you do is you set that up, and then once you've got it in place, you kind of look behind it and you follow that rod all the way down your chain. And if it's perfectly straight and aligned with the chain, then you know that your rear wheel here is in alignment. So that means you don't have to rely on these markings, which can be a little bit off by machining faults from the factory. So it's nice that these come on the bikes and you can use them as reference points for sure. But if you want to know 100% that your wheel's in alignment, make sure that these are even on both sides. But then if you grab one of these, it's always great to use this and just verify. All right, guys, so the second tool we're going to talk about is the Motion Pro Slack Setter. So this is their chain slack setting tool. So when you're doing your wheel adjustment, not only is it important to know that your chain is in alignment, but the whole point of doing this in the first place is getting your chain to the right slack setting. If your chain is too loose, it could come off, it could bind up and cause a crash. If it's too tight, it'll wear out your chain and your sprockets super quick and can cause some other issues such as overheating or undue stress on the output shaft as well. So what you need to do is use something like this or a tape measure to make sure that your chain is in the proper slack, or else you're going to run into problems. All right, so I'm going to do my best to show you guys how this thing kind of works. And it's a little bit difficult on my bike because unfortunately, this lip right here, which needs to be up against the swing arm to hold place, on my bike, once you actually have this portion which slides over your chain right about here, so this should be slid on somewhere in a midway point between your rear sprocket and your front. So for me, that's right about this region right here. Once I slide this on here, unfortunately, the way that my swing arm is shaped, it just barely misses the lip of the swing arm. So in cases like mine, what I've actually found is if I use the tool from the inside like so, it actually meets the swing arm just fine. But in order to show you guys how to use this and have a good angle with the camera, I'm going to do it from the outside. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but it is what it is. I'll just do the best I can. So I'm going to come just a little bit further down right about here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push in a little bit on the chain just to make sure I meet the lip of the swing arm as best as I can. I've thought about actually trying to modify this and put something on top of here, but I don't want to screw the measurements up either. I'll just use it from the inside whenever I want to use it. So what you need to do is you need to get this lip up against your swing arm. Make sure that you're not putting downward or upward tension on this portion while it's on the chain. You want it in a neutral position right now. At this point, you're going to want to make sure that this tube in the middle here is all the way down flush, because that's where our measurement numbers are going to come from. So you need to start at the 0 position with that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put positive upward force with this hand up against the swing arm to make sure the tool stays in place. And then you're just going to lift the middle portion like so, up, and then just let it slide back down like so. And then when I look at it here, it's going to show me how many millimeters of slack there actually is. Now for me, it's difficult to do from this side, and it's not giving me an accurate measurement because I'm not able to do it from the proper point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you with a tape measurer as well, so you guys can see how it's done that way. All right, so some of you guys might find that using a tape measure is just a little bit easier, especially when the swing arm doesn't quite work out for that Motion Pro tool. I do highly recommend that Motion Pro tool still though. Even though it doesn't work on my bike, it works on a lot of other bikes. It's just the way that my swing arm is shaped, unfortunately. But it was really cheap. It was like 10 bucks or something like that. So in order to do this with a tape measure, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take a tape measure, you're going to extend it out, and you're going to put it in that midway point that we talked about, okay? And what I like to do is on my tape measure, I like to use the centimeter side because I know for a fact that everything between these centimeters is 10 millimeters. It's just easier to read than trying to use your inches side. So you're going to come to that midway point, and you're going to choose a reference point on your chain. That's either going to be the top of the link, maybe the top of the rivet, the middle of the rivet, or the bottom of it. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. As long as you're measuring the difference between the 2 points as we push up and down on this, as long as that point stays the same, you're going to have an accurate measurement. So what I like to do is I like to use the rivet, the very top crown of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my midway point here, and I'm going to push up on the chain. I'm not going to force it super high up or anything like that, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to push up, and then if I look here, it's probably hard for you guys to see, but I can see that the top of that rivet meets exactly where this 2 centimeter line is, okay? So when I push up, I see that I have that 2 centimeter line, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to ever so gently just pull down, because that's what I'm supposed to do on this motorcycle. I'm going to pull down. Now the top of that rivet is right about just past the 4.5 centimeter line. So the difference between 2 centimeters and 4 centimeters is 20 millimeters, okay? So we're a little bit past that, about the halfway point. So I know that I have about 25 millimeters of chain slack. And my bike recommends that the chain be slacked somewhere between 20 and 30 millimeters. So I'm right in the middle, right on the money of where my chain needs to be. Once I did this, I noticed a severe improvement with the shifting on my bike. It was much less jerky. It was much more secure feeling. Every time I hit a shift, I used to get this feeling like a hesitation, almost like it wasn't going into gear right away. And what that was is it was actually the motorcycle had so much slack in it. I had like 45 millimeters of chain slack before I tightened this up. And what was happening is the chain would slack, and once it caught tension again, it was giving me kind of like a forward jerk. So it almost felt like a delay in getting into the next gear. So that is how you check chain tension. When you're doing your chain tension, use the Motion Pro chain alignment tool to make sure your wheel is also straight. Do your measurements, double check, triple check, get them dialed in, and then you're good to go. All right, so that's it for today's video, guys. If you liked the video, leave a comment, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel for me, please. I believe we're almost at 1,300 subscribers right now, and I'm super proud of that number. I appreciate every single one of you guys who are hitting the subscribe button. You have no idea how much it means to me. I never thought I'd even make it to 1,000 subscribers, and now we're approaching 1,300 in just a couple months after we hit 1,000. So I'm super grateful. I appreciate everybody out there, and I'll see you in the next video.